No,
There
it's
we
not.
go. All right.
If it didn't, oh, it won't come on the screen because you're sharing. Okay. We should give the option to stay or leave, and it didn't.
Well, it's just all the selections and places and everything are all different. So just trying to find it.
Yeah. We call it, in my shop, we always call it a disimprovement. Change it for no reason and just make it confusing. Everybody's used to it. It works fine. Don't mess with it.
Part of me wants to not save and make these available
What is that?
because people don't come.
Oh, so do we know if they're visiting and watching the video?
Lots of people watch the older ones. Yeah.
Well, I think that's why we have to, we were talking about doing a one page for non-HOA affiliated. We need to find a way to spread the word, because if we're gonna make them firewise, they don't need to be a homeowner association.
Oh, actually, you could test something for me right now. Have you got your phone? Have you got your iPhone or something handy?
Yeah, I got both right here.
Okay, so I'm going to move forward. Can your phone read that?
Yep. Let me just update, open the web browser. wildfirela.org.
Fantastic. Good. Okay. Because I'm using that throughout. QR codes galore.
Good. I'm going to talk a bit about Beechwood Canyon and some of the particular problems they have up there.
That'd be good.
Which are the roads are so skinny and parking on both sides. It's scary as hell up there.
Well, I had some communications today with a woman who lives in Pacific Palisades, and she might be helpful getting us up and running with the wildfire fair. But she's talking about a developer that is moving ahead with buying up land and cutting roads that are not the required width, and placing fire hydrants hundreds of feet away from homes. And so I talked to Corey, and Corey's like, yeah, that's a big problem in that part of the world. And we don't have enough people, and neither does the city, to manage it. So they're likely to just get away with murder, so to speak.
And where is this going to be?
Pacific Palisades.
On the Palisades?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. High fire zone. Yeah, that's great.
Right on a hillside too.
Well, if you remember, on Beechwood, there are several, I think 2 hairpin turns.
Right.
And if there's cars parked, right on either side of where it makes the turn, and there's guardrails. I guess people have been driving into people's houses. Engine or a truck is going to have a bitch of a time getting through. If they say that there's cars coming down, right, and they're on the opposite side, on the other way, right, there's no way that they're going to be able to make that turn without taking out cars. It's nuts. And she says she's been getting very bad responses from NITRA about traffic and the people up there, and the busloads of people being the tourists being hauled up there. And I said, I sympathize with you, but I mean, we can't get involved in that. You have to deal with your.
I have very little sympathy for people that live up there related to the Hollywood sign and tourists. The Hollywood sign has been there
forever,
for almost 100 years. Yeah. Tourists have been there for that long. When you buy a property up there, there are disclosures which tell you, hey, the Hollywood sign is here.
Well, you don't need a disclosure, you just have to look up.
So it just...
Well, it's the same as Mandeville Canyon, we did smokes or something at one of the houses, and I said, well, they had moved in, in the last year or two, and I said, was it disclosed that it was a high fire zone? And they said, yeah, but we didn't really know what that meant. You know, now they've paid who knows what for a home. You know,
Who is in CERT Battalion 15?
oh, I don't know.
Okay,
West Valley.
it's just one of the people in the waiting room.
Is there a name on it, or it just says Battalion 15?
It says CERT Battalion 15.
Don't know.
Usually at this time, we have like 15 or 16 people, and we've got 4 right now.
Oh, terrific. Let's see, do I have a battalion list anywhere over here? Well, thank you. Say hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello.
That's Chicky. That's David.
And somebody else showed up called iPhone.
Oh, we always have an iPhone person.
People are weird.
Okay, so Sarah Jane is the woman who always asks questions, and she always brings up the traffic problem on all of our town halls.
Right.
She's the president of their HOA up there.
Yep.
So she's very, very driven, except when it comes to her own home and removing the you know, the foliage that needs to be removed. That is going to be such a tough road to hoe to get people to clear zone 0. It's next to impossible. It's so ingrained in people to have shrubbery right up against their house, you know, because it softens the house, you know, the visuality of the house. It's going to be a real bugger to get people to do that, and they need a lot of it at our house.
All right, 15 seconds, and I'm going to let people in.
Okay.
People are joining.
Oh. Now we're up to 10. 11.
S. Savage, please make sure your mic is muted, please. Okay, good. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes, everyone. Just a little couple folks join us. It's traffic was terrible for a lot of folks today, so I imagine some folks are still trying to get home. Thank you very much for joining us. Okay, we'll wait about 1 more minute. Okay. Let's get started. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining us tonight. We've got some really good stuff to share with you, and we'll probably have a couple more folks joining us. Here we go, people showing up as we go along, but we will get our show moving forward. So we're all on the same team, so to speak. Everyone here is interested in the best things that we can do to reduce the ignitability of our homes and to reduce the spread of wildfire. So it's okay to have disagreements, but let's try and keep confrontation to separate offline conversations. Our job here tonight is to try and make everyone get the best possible information they can about their homeowners association or their group of homes, what have you. One thing that we're changing, which is really important, is beginning in a couple of weeks, all of the meetings that take place are going to be distributed via YouTube as opposed to the audio only version. And so because of that, we're making a bit of a change. We're also going to record all of our stuff into the cloud. We had a hard drive crash with some of our audio files on it, and we're rebuilding it right now. So in a couple of weeks, we'll have this new system up and running, and you'll be able to see not only hear what we're talking about, but you're able to see the presentation as well. So we're looking forward to that, and thanks for your patience as we go through that change. One other thing that's a change that you'll see throughout the presentation is we're using QR codes. We've tested this, and unless you're looking at this on your iPhone, if you're looking at it on an iPad or on a computer screen, if you point a phone at it, you should be able to activate the QR codes. And if not, it'll be up on YouTube and you'll be able to do it that way. So this is how you get information about what we're doing. Our website, wildfirela.org, is our Fire Safe Council website. And we're going to talk about some of the new updates and stuff that we've done during the last couple of weeks. So here's our agenda for tonight. A couple of opening remarks, progress announcements. We want everyone to see what we're doing that's new and exciting every month. I do have a insurance update. We promised you that we would do this every month, not only on the FAIR plan, but on some other things happening. We then have a guest presentation. Assistant Chief Vincent Alvarado from the Los Angeles City Fire Department is going to talk about a real-time, live, full-scale exercise that is based around wildfire, and the public is invited to attend and see how it works. If you haven't been to one of these, it's actually very, very exciting, and it'll show you how your LAFD will respond to an incident and bring the entire city family with them. And then we're going to talk about evacuation. It's one of the most commonly asked questions. Can I have an evacuation drill? Is there something I can do to practice and that sort of thing? So we're going to talk about that. And we also want to bring up Wildfire Awareness Day, which is on May the 4th. So in fact, let's do that right now. The NFPA has designated May the 4th. May the 4th be with us, I guess, as National Wildfire Awareness Day. And MySafe LA is going to have a 90-minute presentation. It's on a Saturday. It's Saturday morning, starting at 9:30. And we're going to have a 90-minute presentation on significant Southern California wildfires as told by people who were there. And hopefully that'll be interesting for everyone. So there's the QR code, which will give you the actual invitation. All right, let's talk about a couple of announcements on progress and what we're doing, and we'll turn it over to Carl Ginsberg, our lead coordinator for wildfire in Los Angeles.
Thank you, David, and good evening, everyone. We've been making a concerted effort in the last few weeks to begin and continue doing home assessments. Now, let me point out there are two types of assessments that we're going to do. One is a full neighborhood assessment. So we drive around the neighborhood and we look for problem areas along with the homeowners or the team that has been established as the Fire Safe Council team. So they'll show us areas that are of concern, and we'll look around and we get a general feel for the neighborhood as a whole, which is part of what we have to report when we make a neighborhood a Fire Safe Council or Firewise community. The second assessment that we're doing is at least 6 homes in each of the association boundaries. And so we go out to the homes. There's a pair of us that go out. One of us takes pictures, and one of us has a clipboard. We look like a city worker, just spinning around, but we have our clipboard. And we fill out the NFPA, which is National Fire Protection Association, form, and it points us to all of the problem areas that could occur at a home. The zone 0, foliage growing around too close to the building, remnants of firewood that might be stacked against the building, anything against the building that could cause a fire, given a wind-driven fire. Now, wind-driven fires are especially devastating because they are preceded by what's called embercast, which are hot ashes that blow ahead of a fire due to the wind. If they land on the ground and they are able to get into the vents underneath your home, it could burn your house down. If the ash can get into any of the vents, eave vents, gable vents, even the small dryer vents that everybody has on the outside of the home from their clothes dryer, there's lots of ways that bad stuff can get into the house. So we look for all of those things around the house. We look at the gutters. We want to make sure the gutters are clear. So we do a full assessment of the home. Unfortunately, one of the requirements is that the first 5 feet away from every home has to be clear of most any foliage, especially stuff that can dry out in hot weather. And it's meant to protect the home should the embercast hit the home, drop to the ground. If it lands in dry leaves or bark, stuff that you've put into that area between your plants, or dry, dead plants, it will light up those incendiary products, and it can rise above. The eaves may catch fire, windows may shatter. If a window shatters, if it's a single pane window, you're going to have flames inside the house. So there's all kind of things we look at. We know that the zone zero, the first 5 feet away from a house, people like to have shrubbery there. And it's very hard to convince people that that's something that needs to be cleared. But that is the most important part of the clearance that has to be done, because that's where the vulnerability really gets to be the highest of a chance of burning one's house down. So we've been doing those, and we're working with the homeowners to make suggestions as to what they can do and how they can step by step protect their houses. Also, the action plans are to work with the neighborhood as a whole, point out areas of common areas that may occur in a homeowners association. Some of the homeowners associations that we visited have a lot of common area, which has to be paid for out of the homeowners' dues, of course. But it gets expensive, and we know that that's a problem. But those are also very important areas that have to be taken care of. We're looking forward to. Some of you may have been at the Brentwood preparedness fair that we had mid last year. It was so good that we decided to spread that out throughout the city. So we're planning one at this moment, and we plan to do probably 3 or 4 before the fire season occurs. That way we can get people a little bit more educated on what they need to do on their homes and get started with the project even before we meet with them. There's things that people can do. They can go to Home Depot and buy certain products that will help them harden their homes. So everyone needs to recognize how important that is. We just had more rain. We keep having more rain. It's not going to protect us come September when everything dries out. So as David will tell you, and he always mentions it, we look at all that foliage as being fuel. It's unfortunate, but that's the environment in which we live. So whether or not you are affiliated with us as a homeowner association or just visiting tonight, take what we say seriously, because it could be a very bad fire season, hopefully not, but if the Santa Ana winds start blowing, one never knows where the fires would light up. So everybody plan ahead, take care of your homes, and realize that when we talk about evacuation, where we were today, we were in Beechwood Canyon, and there are areas where the road curves, and it was pointed out to us by a homeowner that should there be cars parked around there, which there seems to be cars parked on both sides of this very narrow street, the likelihood of a fire apparatus being able to make that turn if there's traffic on that street is virtually impossible. So there's 2 things that could happen. If the traffic going up, firefighters are going to be blocked. People coming down trying to evacuate are going to be stuck in traffic. So the likelihood is that you're going to be asked to shelter in place. Now, do you want to shelter in place in a home that's protected or in a home that's unprotected? Me, I would rather have done everything I can do to make sure that if I have to stay in my house, I'll be safe. And that's where your thinking should be too. don't plan on just being able to leave, because some of the canyon roads are, we know, have traffic on too much traffic on a good day. Imagine what would happen if there was a wildfire nearby and there's smoke in the air. So let's all plan ahead, take care of ourselves, and look for the future. Um, it's not a whole lot of work to do, but it's very necessary. So I'll turn it back to David, and we'll continue on. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Carl. So let's do a quick update of the Wildfire LA website. QR code's up here if you haven't visited it, but it's wildfirela.org. And it's a pretty easy thing to remember, wildfirela.org. We've been making changes. This is something that will happen every month as we continue to expand. We're in the process of building a wildfire community protection plan, a CWPP, for the city of Los Angeles, and we're also building a template that we can apply to any homeowners association. It's a simplified 10-page simplified plan that we're developing in conjunction with CAL FIRE and the California Fire Safe Council, and it will be able to help every HOA understand what's going on. These CWPP documents, by the way, some of them are extremely complex, and in fact, the city of LA's will be extremely complex, but it's for the public as much as it's for anyone else, so that you can know what kind of vegetation there is, what the climate is like and how it's changing, what the construction elements are, what the census makeup of the population is, and so on. So it'll also have a lot of fire history, which, as you know, we talk about a lot. So these are some of the important things that we're dealing with. We've created a membership. It's free, but it will provide you with other kinds of discounts on home hardening efforts and so on. It also gets you a bi-monthly newsletter. Monthly is too often. We don't want to bury people's email accounts with lots and lots of stuff. We've built a new insurance decision tree. So it's a form. This QR code takes you there. It allows you to kind of say who you are. Do you belong to a homeowners association, or are you an individual homeowner? And then you answer other questions. And at the end of the series of questions you go through, it'll make a suggestion. The website will make a suggestion about, should you be a Fire Safe Council? Should you be a NFPA Firewise USA site? Should you get individual coverage? What are the things that are most effective for you? We've also added a new insurance discount chart into the community insurance section of the site. So it's a very important thing. It lists all of the different kinds of providers and what kinds of discounts and or requirements they have for a home. So that's going to be very useful to help everyone understand, what do I need to do or what's happening? And it answers a lot of questions. We're going to be adding mapping to this very shortly. We have a long-standing use of Esri for our own internal stuff, but we're building a public version of it that everyone can hopefully benefit from. So ongoing changes every month, and look forward to getting feedback from anyone. And if you haven't signed up, please do sign up, because it'll give you some benefits. The sign-up form is on the homepage, so just wildfirela.org, and you'll be good to go. Quick insurance update, and then we will get to Chief Alvarado. As you know, we've indicated that we will provide an insurance update every month. At first, you may think that this is information you already have, but as we get through it all, maybe it'll change a little bit in terms of what we're able to share. So there's this insurance retreat we know about, right? So all of these insurance companies have either limited the number of policies that they're writing, or they have retreated completely from the state. These are all admitted providers. And 70,000 people just in the West LA area have been told they're going to lose their insurance by summertime. One of the things that concerns us a lot about insured versus uninsured losses is that if you look at the lighter purple line up there, 65% of economic losses from wildfires were based on uninsured property or structures. And the idea that people would not have insurance for this is frightening. As a homeowner or as anyone else, but there's a number of things that are going on in the background, so that some of this may not be as drawn out as we think it would be. By the way, when we talk about people losing their insurance, fire stations are losing their insurance. So CAL FIRE has 2 fire stations in Northern California that have been cut off and another 14 that will be cut off. And so the entire model is changing. So just as a reminder, for the entire existence of insurance history in the United States generally and in California specifically, insurance rates and coverage have been based upon history. What happened in the past? The big change that wildfire is bringing about is that coverage, policy rates, the amount of money that you pay, is going to be based on projections, on guesswork. Now, the guesswork is supposed to be very accurate, but we haven't been able to demonstrate that in any kind of tangible method yet. But insurance rates are going to be based on forward-looking projections. It also is important to note that even if you do have insurance options available to you, that it will be expensive. And that kind of expensive issue is one that you might as well not have insurance in some cases. We know people that are spending $10,000 for their home insurance every month. And we know people that paid $1,000 in 2019 that are paying $6,000 now. So that's a 600% increase. A lot of this has to do with disputes between the insurance providers and the California Department of Insurance. They're working, in their view, very diligently to make certain that they make the process of providing insurance more equitable, but currently insurance providers aren't buying it. And so that's what's kind of going on here. That's kind of the reading between the lines of what's happening in that overall process. And the California FAIR Plan is at a place where it's almost oversaturated. So the state of California is looking at some options to be able to provide additional liquidity, because if there is a Saddle Ridge or a Woolsey type fire, the FAIR Plan will not be able to pay out. So it's very, very important that not only do we have some kind of insurance, but that we also have a methodology of making sure that insurance is going to work. So to kind of move the ball forward, not just on insurance, but on everything we're talking about, I'm going to spend a week in Sacramento, the week after next. I'm meeting with Assembly people, with state senators, with CAL FIRE, with Cal OES, with the Fire Safe Council, and several workshops. And I think that's going to be very, very helpful as we take all of our storytelling from everything we've learned in Southern California and take that up to Sacramento and share it with everyone. Most of the information they're working with is coming from Northern California communities. So it's really, really important that we share information with them that way. The San Diego Fire Safe Council is one of the best in the state, and the state's pretty much aware of what they're doing, but there's not a lot of awareness of what's happening in this kind of general area. There is in the sense of high fire risk, we know that. There is in the sense of lots of people, they know that, and of loss of insurance. But to share the data that will help the state, CAL FIRE, Cal OES, and others take action, or most hopefully give me feedback on steps that we can take right now, is extremely important as we move the ball forward. So I'm really looking forward to spending a week up there, and it will be a big part of our May Fire Safe Council presentation. So speaking of presentations, it's now time to introduce Vince Alvarado. He's an assistant chief with the Los Angeles City Fire Department. He is the commander who is in charge of the upcoming and very, very exciting real-time exercise that's taking place. And so, Chief, unmute yourself, and we would love to hear from you.
All right, sound check. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Good evening, Vince Alvarado. As Dave mentioned earlier, an honor to be here. I just want to first start off and say thank you to MySafe LA for all your efforts in keeping LA safe. It's definitely one of the most important things we can do when we are, contributing to our mission of public safety and keeping our public safe, especially when it comes to a disaster situation, a crisis situation like a wildfire. May 18th is a day that we've been planning for a few weeks. Council District 7, which is in what we call the Battalion 12 area of the San Fernando Valley. It's the communities along the foothills of the Angeles National Forest, is hosting a disaster preparedness fair. And within that fair for the community, and it's from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., they wanted the fire department and the city family, LAPD, Recs and Parks, Emergency Management Division, MySafe LA, Department of Aging, Department of Disability. I could be missing a few DOT, LAPD, Angeles National Forest, all of our Verdugo partners in the fire service, a ton of the agencies that work together collectively when it comes to the evacuation piece for a wind-driven brush fire. All the entities that collaborate to help save lives will be working together in a wildfire simulation to practice and exercise our operation that will mimic the operation that was successful in our recent fires in that particular area. What I'm talking about, the Creek Fire, Saddle Ridge, even including way back into the Sayer Fire and the Tuna Canyon Fire. So this disaster preparedness fair has different components, and one of them I mentioned is the evacuation simulation. And what the simulation is going to portray is the phase 2 of the phase 1 portion that occurred in October. In October, what they demonstrated, and I wasn't assigned to the valley at that time, I was in downtown, was what it looks like at a command post, the command post being where the incident commanders come together and all the supervisors that are in charge of the different entities of brush fire come together on the management side to create objectives, to create the objectives that support life safety, incident stabilization, and preservation of property, and the fair disseminate them out into strategy and tactics to where the field people can go ahead and do everything they can do to save lives and save property. That was the first 60 minutes of a wildfire response, what they did in October. Now, phase 2, which will be demonstrated on May 18th, is when the organizations that are initially responding to the incident now have the opportunity to organize and get into what we call the managed phase. So the demonstration, the simulation that's going to happen on May 18th is what happens when the field incident management teams from the LA City Fire Department, the LAPD, Angeles National Forest, and LA County Fire Department come together at one location. Now, using the planning P process to really get organized and make sure that we work collectively with all the city agencies to accomplish our number one mission, which is saving lives. And one of those strategies and tactics that we do to save lives is the whole evacuation piece. Evacuation is a big endeavor that cannot be accomplished by one department alone. What we would demonstrate on the Saturday drill would be the collaboration between LAPD, Emergency Management Department, and LAFD. As if you had an organizational chart, that would be your evacuation branch leadership. Now, that evacuation branch leadership is going to be taking information from the people on the ground that are actually looking at the fire, intelligence from the weather reports that we get, making good fire behavior predictions, so we're able to protect houses and get people out of harm's way. So we're using a lot of intel, a lot of inputs, a lot of situational awareness, and you'll be able to see how those inputs come into the command post and how the decisions are made using all the technology we have, the mapping products. And within that higher leadership organization, you have all the subunits, which we call divisions and groups, that help accomplish that mission. You're going to see how we have certain groups, like the evacuation groups that are in the field helping save lives. Those evacuation groups are composed of field units with LAPD officers, LAFD firefighters, people from the mountain unit at LAPD for large animal evacuation, coming together to make sure that we have the tools and the people necessary to get people out of harm's way. We also have a group in the organization called the Traffic Group, which includes Department of Transportation, that helps secure routes, evacuation routes, to get people from out of their homes onto a route and eventually to an evacuation site so they're out of harm's way. We have Security Group, which is led by LAPD, and you'll be able to see how that is actually integrated into the command post, where the security group is responsible for, after we evacuate a community because of the fire about to hit that particular community, we have to provide security. And unfortunately, we live in a society where people are opportunists, that when people evacuate, there's a tendency where you'll have those people in the society that want to come and take and loot things. Well, we have a mechanism in place called Security Group that ensures that when our people leave their houses, that it will be secured by law enforcement to ensure that nobody comes in and tries to take any possessions. We also have Animal Services Group, basically, which is in charge of the animal piece, everything from helping us get animals out of homes from small to large and sheltering them to keep them in a safe area until the wildfire moves on. So those are just a couple of the components that you'll see get demonstrated. In addition to that, we also have a lot of agency representatives that are going to be at the command posts that will help give intelligence to help us make better informed decisions. We're working with Department of Aging, Department of Disability, with the staffing coordinators to be able to identify specific houses that might need that extra help to get them out of harm's way. And we do have mechanisms in place to have not only the staffing, but the equipment to be able to not only help people that are able-bodied to get out of their houses, but people that need that assistance, including medical equipment, to get out of the house. And as mentioned earlier in this meeting, sometimes the best way to keep yourself safe in a wildfire, it might not be the evacuation, depending on time and distance. It might be that sheltering in place. So you'll see that as part of the strategy to save lives. Is sometimes the best decision is a shelter in place. So the things you can do to harden your home to make it safe for you, there will be components within the drill that will probably identify the people that choose not to evacuate based on input from the public safety, people that are in the streets evaluating the fire's edge, but also determining that the houses that they have actually hardened are a secure enough safety zone, that we like to call it, to where if the fire does pass through, they'll be safe inside their home. Another thing that we're going to demonstrate in this drill, and there's a ton of objectives, and I don't want to bore you with all of them because I like you to see it up close if you're able to attend the drill, is the notification systems that the city of LA has put in place from lessons learned from a lot of different wildfires, everything from the wireless emergency alert, which is one form of notification to residents who are in the vicinity of the fire's edge to know that there's a wildfire coming, and to know that there could be an impending evacuation order or warning that is about to happen. There's also notifications through Notify LA, which I'm sure you're all aware about how to sign up to get that notification. And there's also a reverse 911 mechanism where through our public safety agencies, we're able to notify out through different mechanisms, email, text, and phone call, that a wildfire is taking place. So we do have a lot of objectives we want to hit. The one thing I will say is that the one main difference from October to now, May, is that our department, the fire department, as well as a lot of the agencies within the city, have had a lot of attrition, where a lot of the senior members have left, with a lot of new people coming up, including myself. I'm new to the position. So we're here not just to exercise a process that we have developed over the years, but to actually introduce it to new people in new seats, to be able to come together and get some facial recognition. A lot of our success that we have in the real fire is that facial recognition, that speed of trust that's developed through drills like this. So it's going to be a lot of good, positive things we're looking forward to get out of this. And most importantly, it's an opportunity to educate the public on the things that we're going to do as a public safety team to ensure that we accomplish our number one objective, which is to save lives. I've been very fortunate to have actually been a part of the Creek, Latuna, Saddle Ridge, Sayer, all the recent wildfires in LA, but not as a chief officer, but as a captain or a firefighter. So I've seen the ability of our city family to come together and save lives, and I'm very proud that now I'm in a position to be a part of this drill and to see it from this lens. And yeah, this is just one step. This drill in May that will. I just talked to Peter Fair from LAPD, who is in charge of training on their site, and we're looking at this as an opportunity to bring new people in to learn the process, to get facial recognition, to go for the next drill, which we're looking at a real full functional exercise where we're actually moving people out of homes and moving animals into shelters. But yeah, so that's all I had. And anything else you want me to cover, Dave, I'll be more than happy to do that.
So if you can hang out for just a moment, Chief, and if anyone has particular questions, raise your hand and we'll try and get to you. I would add that the overall idea here is for the public to be able to see what the Los Angeles City Fire Department, Los Angeles County Fire Department, and all the supporting agencies do. Our organization is part of the outreach and also repopulation. We performed repopulation services during the Getty Fire and the Saddle Ridge Fire, getting thousands of people back to their homes in the valley and hundreds of people back to their homes here in the city. And it's a very useful thing. And secondly, the chief may not have mentioned this specifically, but there's also going to be a series of booths where people can learn more about wildfire. So whether it's a phone company or ourselves or other people, we're going to have a bunch of home hardening things there. So there's a lot that can be learned, and it's free, and it's in the Hanson Dam area, and it would be worth your coming and taking a look. Pat Bates, why don't you unmute yourself and ask your question?
Here we go. Hi. Thank you so much, Chief, for being with us. I do hope you're with us for a few years to come. We really appreciate your knowledge. One question: at what point do we activate CERT when something like this is happening, and how do you do it? So that's one question, and I'm going to leave it at that. And thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Pat, don't forget to put your hand down. There you go. Chief?
All right. Okay. Am I unmuted, Dave? I'm new to this.
Yeah, you're good. We can hear you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great question. When do we activate CERT? Immediately on a large scale fire that has multi-operational periods. We're going to take the whole city family together to help save lives. So immediately, as an assistant chief, my role when I arrive at the fire, because the battalion chief is going to be the incident commander taking it from a captain, is to think about those things, activating CERT, because I've been the recipient of all the good services that CERT can do. I actually was assigned to Battalion 12 for 2 years. I had multiple wildfires in that area, including the Hanson Dam. There was a period during a heat wave, I think in 2022, where I had CERT come to every single one of my fires on the immediate order that I do when I ask our dispatch for additional resources. CERT was a big part of it. Not only in the wildfires, I actually had a few structure fires during that time period in that heat wave, and they actually CERT came out on every single one of them because of the hydration piece and support piece that CERT can provide. So to answer that question, as soon as we can, early.
So Chief, one thing that people probably want to know is what time should they plan on being out at Hanson Dam?
So the disaster fair, the event is from 10 to 2. From 8 to 10 is where we're gonna kind of do a show tell. It's for whoever wants to show up and see that, and that's more for the fire people that are gonna be there. We have a lot of fire agencies within LA City are Battalion 12 fire companies that are utilizing this day and the day before and the day after as their mutual threat zone drill, which is not just Battalion 12 LA City fire companies, but neighboring companies, the Angeles National Forest, LA County Fire, Pasadena, Burbank, Glendale. So with that, to answer your question, I mean, 10 o'clock is when our actually exercise starts, not just for the evacuation piece, but I forgot to mention, there's actually a perimeter control piece to this simultaneous that's happening in the Hanson Dam, where our fire department team of the agency that I just mentioned are gonna be attacking a fictional fire in the Hanson Dam, where we actually anchor it, you know, with some good water and cutting line all the way into wrapping it, you know, and with cut line and hose lines and water drops. So that'll start at 10 o'clock, but the show tell part of it, which you're welcome to watch as well, will be between the 8 to 10-ish range is what we're shooting for. We're still working out those finer details. 10 o'clock for the full show. If you want to see stuff before that, we'll be meeting there around 8 o'clock, 8:30-ish to do a little briefing for our people that are going to be doing the drill.
Thank you, Chief. All right, we're going to move on now. And if you want to spend a few more minutes hanging around, Chief, if you have the time, you can hear us talk a little bit more about this. Evacuation. It's one of the most commonly asked questions from people that live in the very high fire severity zones, any canyon, any place where the roads are narrow. And this is not going to encompass everything that you might need to know, but it's going to talk about, I'm going to talk about some of the most important things that you need to think about when it comes to the topic of evacuation. So one of the most important questions is, why? And why evacuate? Why, if you can shelter in place, should you go? So whenever possible, we want to get people out if there's an immediate threat to life. Not so much to property, but to life. If the fire is spreading rapidly, sometimes fires spread extremely rapidly. If you remember in our March meeting, our fire history discussion was about the Oakland Hills fire from 1991, and that fire destroyed hundreds of homes in a 12-hour period. So from nothing to almost being knocked down in 12 hours and consuming an entire neighborhood. If a fire is moving quickly, we've got to get people out of there. Inaccessibility. If fire apparatus can't get in there because the roads are narrow, because there's cars on the street or whatever it may be, we've got to get them out of there. If there are limited escape routes, anyone who lives in Mandeville Canyon knows you've basically got two ways out and one main way out, which is Mandeville Canyon Road. Same thing's true with Beechwood Canyon, and we've got other areas in the city where evacuation routes are limited. If the air quality is bad, it may be that the fire is a mile or 2 or 5 miles away from you, but the level of smoke is so dangerous that we need people to get out of their homes. The first step would be to close your windows and stay inside and use your air conditioning if you have it. But if it's extremely bad, it's possible you may be evacuated. If there are infrastructure threats, this is an important reason why evacuations can be authorized and executed. And that is, if you're going to lose electricity, if you're going to lose water, if you're going to have downed power lines, if you're going to have any kind of danger to the community where people could be injured or worse, that's a reason, even though there may not be any fire there actually, that's a reason to get people out. And overall precaution. We want people to be safe. The city family wants people to be safe. And if it's possible to get people out safely, efficiently, and without people running, so to speak, where you can get out in an orderly fashion, it's something that people will think about. There are risks related to evacuation, and sometimes people don't think about that. This is actually an image, I believe, from someone trying to get out almost too late from the Getty fire, being assisted by an LA County firefighter. When the fire is spreading rapidly, that's a very dangerous situation. Typically, and you'll see this if you attend this drill, typically the fire department will determine where they feel evacuations are most important and should be needed. But law enforcement, whether it's the CHP, if there's freeways or highways involved, or local law enforcement like the LA Police Department or Sheriff's Department, they will actually execute the evacuation to make sure that people can egress safely, they can get out safely, and that their homes remain protected. We all worry about traffic congestion. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more detail because a lot of people are concerned about that. But traffic congestion is a risk. If you're stuck and you can't get anywhere, that puts your life at risk. And we know that people have died in their cars trying to get out, often when they're trying to get out too late. So that's going to be kind of my broken record statement that I'm going to share over and over again, is don't leave too late. People that aren't prepared, people that say, it's fine. I mean, I can tell you, going back to Saddle Ridge, that there are people who we spoke to after the fire, as we were getting people back home, who said, I didn't think it would come to me. It looked like it was miles away. And then 30 minutes later, it was cresting the hill, rushing down. So I had to hurry to get out. So this is an important reason to take evacuation orders seriously. People won't tell you to evacuate if there's no reason to. Communications failures. That is another really important topic that we'll talk about in more detail in a minute or two. But the idea that you're not going to get notified, that you won't know that there is a wildfire and you need to get out, that's a risk and that's an issue. And of course, once again, the idea of poor air quality. So one important distinction, as we're kind of looking at this from a 20,000 foot level and we're drilling down slowly, is there are multiple ways to talk about evacuation. There isn't just an evacuation order. There are evacuation warnings. Some cities or departments call them advisories. There's other ways to think about it, but it's an alert nonetheless. And that alert will tell you that there's the potential for evacuation to occur. And what it's really telling you is, if you have pets or you have people with mobility challenges or anything that might take a little bit longer, if you own horses, if you have any kind of large animals, you're going to need to spend more time getting ready to get out. So that's kind of the first alert, as it were, of think about leaving now. And if you leave then, it's much more likely that the roads will be free, that there will not be congestion, and that you'll have less of a problem getting out. An evacuation order is typically a mandatory instruction. If you know ready, set, go, it is the go. And it is telling you, don't wait, don't sit around, go. And we're going to talk about that process and how you can practice in just a few minutes. So knowing that there's a difference, though, is a really important thing for you to understand, and to know that every evacuation isn't mandatory to begin with, and some never reach the mandatory stage. We want to make sure that we get ahead of the fire. One of the things that Chief Alvarado was sharing with you, and that you'll see on the 18th, and that you'll see when you work with us, is that there is a tremendous amount of planning for what could happen that takes place in advance. And throughout the city of Los Angeles, throughout the county of Los Angeles, throughout the state, there is ongoing, constant training to protect you, to protect firefighters, and to protect the infrastructure of the city. So communications is one of the huge topics that everyone is always worried about. I can tell you that there are people on this call that are in our session tonight that have talked to me at length about their fear that they're not going to know that there's a wildfire, particularly if it is taking place at 2 in the morning or 4 in the morning and they're asleep. So let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. This is kind of looking up down towards the very top of Mandeville Canyon Road, one of the worst places, and it shows you that there are gaps, right? So the green is good cell coverage if there is a cell tower functioning up there. And even with a cell tower, right where that purple pin is, there are going to be gaps based on how the topography and the layout of the land is. But cell phones aren't the only way that you'll be notified, right? So the idea that cell phones are spotty, well, we know that, and we've been talking with AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile about what can be done to improve that. But LA County Fire, and working with us, has NOAA emergency radios. At our wildfire safety fair that we had in Brentwood, we gave more than 100 of them away. At our next wildfire safety fair, which is going to be in Sylmar on June the 1st, we expect to give another several hundred of them away. It's a terrific way to get information. And even if the radio appears to be turned off, if you keep it near your bed, if there's an alert, it will turn itself on and it will start talking to you. So that's another way. Evacuation orders, they come from law enforcement. Sometimes people say, how will I know if there is an evacuation ongoing? And I see fire engines going up and down the street. If you see fire engines outside, that doesn't mean there's going to be an evacuation. But if you see police vehicles, then you know that it is very likely that there is an evacuation going on. And law enforcement knows to knock on doors, to use the PA systems in their radio patrol cars. They're going to communicate in multiple ways. EMD, the Emergency Management Department of the City of Los Angeles, they also use multiple systems. They don't just do reverse phone calling. They will very easily and very quickly get ramped up to be able to notify you about what's going on. And they do it through Notify LA. The QR code that's on the screen here will connect you directly with the sign-up form at EMD and Notify LA, and you fill that out, and then you'll receive text messages. You'll have multiple ways of being informed if there is an advisory or if there is a mandatory evacuation order. So I'll leave that up there for about 10 seconds for anyone who wants to try and capture that if you haven't already signed up for Notify LA. And it's one of the most important things that you can do is to be in that system. Okay, so let's talk about before you leave. What happens? What do you need to think about before you exit, get in your vehicle, and take off? So, is your vehicle fueled? Right? So, if you live in the canyons, probably not a good idea to let your car have 1/8 of a tank of gas. So, keep it at least half full if you can find a way to do that. If there's an evacuation order, look at the trouble that this Mercedes is going through right now, trying to get out of its driveway. Turn your vehicle around so it faces the street. So if you have to go, you just go, and you don't have to worry about oncoming traffic or other kinds of things that you won't be able to see if you're backing out. Do you have a go bag? A go bag that has your medications, that has all those other kinds of things you might need, credit cards, some cash, whatever might be valuable. Do you have pet supplies if you've got a pet? You don't need to put pet supplies in your vehicle if you don't have a pet. Believe it or not, people ask me about that. Do you have a wildfire plan? Do you know what to take? Do you know where you're going to go? Do you have a communications plan? Who are you going to call when you leave? Are you going to post to Facebook that you're okay, to let everyone who follows you on Facebook know that you're okay? What are you going to do about getting stuff out? Have you got an emergency radio? Have you got that NOAA radio that we're talking about? And one of the most important things is, do you have the right clothing? Right? So it's very important that you have some form of eye protection, that you have gloves, that you have a jacket, a light jacket, and that you aren't barefoot or wearing sandals. You've got to wear closed-toe shoes. So that's important. And is your house prepared for you to go? Right? Evacuation isn't just the people going, it's is the house prepared. Firefighters would like to see all the lights left on and the doors unlocked. That way they don't have to use any kind of cutting tools or axes to break into your home if they need to protect it in any way, shape, or form. People worry about that, but I can assure everyone that the whole idea here of having law enforcement patrolling and keeping these perimeter roadblocks in place, perimeter control is a very important process related to wildfire protection for the community. And it's not often that we find people who are looting, or and if they are, they get arrested. Not many people disappear into the ether with someone's belongings. So making sure your home is properly protected. I'll touch on that a little bit more in a minute. But these are important things to think about. Your vehicle, your home, your pets, your family members, anything else that you need to prepare for to get going. And my broken record, little kick is don't leave too late. So many times people decide that they're going to hang out, that it's okay. Well, you know, it's easy to go someplace, right? You can go to the mall, you can go to a park, you could go to a hotel, you could go visit friends. I would suggest going someplace where you keep your radio on, you could stay in touch, but leave early, don't leave late. And if you do leave, this is a really good acronym for everyone to understand. It's called PACE. And if you haven't heard of what PACE is, it's hugely important for people that are evacuating in a wildfire. P is for primary. That means, what is the primary road you're going to take based on what you've been told through the evacuation order? How are you going to get down that road? But what happens if, for whatever reason, that road becomes blocked, or there's fire crossing it, or there's too much smoke to be able to see. That's why you need A in the PACE. That A is the alternate, right? And the alternate is, what's another way that I could get out of here? And there's plenty of videos on YouTube that show CAL FIRE and forestry companies escaping from wildfires because their main road of access to get out is blocked. Their egress is blocked. C is a contingency. What else can I do? What else could I do besides my primary or secondary route? And a contingency might be finding a place where you can shelter. And it might be a fire apparatus providing structure defense, and maybe any number of things. And the final E is emergency. If you're driving down the road and all of a sudden your car dies because of the heat and smoke that prevents your engine from running, that might be a plug for electric vehicles, by the way. But if for whatever reason your vehicle stops running, or there's too much traffic and there's fire approaching, you have to get out of your vehicle and get someplace where you're safe. And we're going to do an entire session about PACE in July. But the idea here is, if you've got the right clothing, if you've got the right stuff, you can find something low to the ground where you can protect yourself better than if you're sitting in a car. You don't want to be asphyxiated in your car. So E is the emergency aspect. So we're going to, as I said, we're going to talk about PACE in more detail in July, and we're going to have some video demonstrations for folks. And in our wildfire safety fairs, we'll talk about it as well. So it's another reason to come in and check out what we're doing there. Remember, it's hugely important. An evacuation might look like this, where you see a bunch of cars heading down the road, and they're heading out nice and orderly and so on. But evacuation might also look like this. And this is when people get really frightened and they crash their cars, they make bad decisions. This is why leaving early is a great idea. And this is why making sure that you follow directions from first responders is a great idea. This is not the kind of evacuation route that you want to follow. So what about roads? There's a lot of issues with roads, right? So people are worried that the road is too narrow. People are worried that they're not going to have the ability to move in or out and around. Let's talk about roads briefly. So as Chief Alvarado noted, the whole exercise, about the whole purpose of doing an exercise such as they're doing in May, is to prepare. And is it just the LAFD that's preparing? It's also the LAPD and other agencies, Department of Transportation. They think about what are the evacuation route plans. In the event we need to evacuate Mandeville Canyon, here's how we're going to do it. In the event we have to evacuate Bel Air, are we going to send people up Roscomere Road? Are we going to send them down Roscomere Road? Are we going to send them over Bellagio? We have Upper Stradella and Lower Stradella. How are we going to use those different streets within that particular community? They think about that. We now have real-time monitoring of roads, so we can see with cameras and with street maps and so on whether there's congestion or not. The advances in technology, whether it's through Android or Apple CarPlay, allow us to do a tremendous amount of stuff. And traffic management. The LAPD is very good at turning streets into one-way streets. So for example, if you live in the Palisades and you need to evacuate down Sunset Boulevard will become a one-way street either to PCH or towards Santa Monica. And it is already pre-planned. The idea is what's the weather condition, what's the wind direction, and what's the fire severity. There will be traffic stopped from any kind of ingress into the Pacific Palisades area, and all lanes will be open going the other way. Advance warning, hugely important. We just talked about Notify LA. With proper advance warning, you'll have time to get out. And of course, first responder coordination, making sure that that unified command post is established, that you have commanders who have different levels of responsibility. Typically, they will dedicate different officers for different types of things. You heard Chief Alvarado talk about evacuation, to talk about traffic, talk about security. Those are all things not related to fighting the fire. So there's a big picture here, and the coordination is extremely important to getting you out safely. And here's an example of a street right here. This is actually up near the top of Mandeville Canyon, and it looks plenty fine now, but what if it's filled with smoke and fire and so on? So we have to think about that. Chief Alvarado mentioned sheltering in place. Carl has mentioned it. I've mentioned it. here's some reasons why sheltering in place might be something new. And by the way, 10 years ago, nobody would really talk about sheltering in place. Today, it's a much more common topic. And one of the reasons is that most homes don't actually burn to the ground from the fire front moving through. The fire front will move fairly quickly, and what it will have in front of it are embers, and what it will have behind it are embers. And it's that ember cast that is most deadly to homes. Homes don't burn in a matter of seconds. They burn typically in a matter of minutes, but once they get going, they go. But if you're sheltering in place and the fire front moves through, then you should have some time to either work on extinguishing ember cast where there's little fire starting, or to be able to evacuate afterwards. So if it's too risky, if the fire is moving too quickly and the roads are blocked, then it's likely you'll be told to shelter in place. Authorities will tell you which way to go, stay at home or leave. Preparation of the home. If your home is hardened, if it's properly hardened, it has an up to 75% chance of not burning. So you're going to be safer in your home. If you have medical issues, if you're confined to a wheelchair, if you have other mobility issues, it may be more difficult for you to leave than to stay at home. So we very, very much want to make sure that we had to do the things that we could do to make sure that people with medical needs are taken care of. Also, people may not understand. I talked about this a few minutes ago, about the whole idea of not knowing how fast the fire can move or that it would come towards you. So the unawareness or misunderstanding is a really, really important thing. And being notified too late, once again, that kind of loops around back to if it's too risky to leave. So there are situations, but don't assume one way or the other. The only way to make sure that you and your family and your pets are safe is to plan to go. If at the last minute you don't, well, that's an option, but at least you were ready to go. So that leads us to this. I don't want to go. I don't want to leave my house. I'm going to stay here. I've got a garden hose. I've got something else that I'm going to stand on the roof with. So a wind-driven fire, a garden hose is not going to protect your house. And it's really important that we learn not to ignore the orders of responders. Very, very important. People stay. Then, as I said, they realize they're in danger and they leave too late. The other thing is, if you stay in your home and people know that you stayed there, then you put firefighters at risk because they have to come rescue you. We're not going to leave people in their homes if we're trying to get everybody out. So the whole idea that firefighters are going to have to stop doing what they were doing to come take you out safely puts them at risk as well as you. There might be insurance issues, and that's something that, particularly in today's issue, if you stay at home and there's damage caused or whatever, and you haven't followed the rules, insurance companies may not pay out. One of the other issues is the proper fire code. You've got to make sure that your homes are built to the proper fire code. I know that in Lahaina, there are a tremendous number of insurance claims being filed, which are being denied. And there's a number of reasons for that. Some of it has to do with building code, but some of it has to do with people that didn't follow directions. Fire officials work to develop evacuation plans well enough in advance. So if there's a fire in your canyon, it's very likely that there's already a pre-plan in place. So don't ignore orders. So finally, let's talk about this, because I think this is a really important aspect of the overall situation, and that is, how do you practice an evacuation? People ask about doing evacuations all the time, and I know that our organization, we're not big fans of evacuation drills, because once you do an exit down a particular road and you end up at a park or a school, you're going to think that's how it always works. If your house burns, it's in a contained 4 or 6 or 8 walled structure. A wildfire is burning that way, and then the wind changes, and then it's burning that way, and then it changes burning this way. So it's very difficult to assume that any particular road is going to be used relative to evacuations. So here's what we suggest. And there's 4 steps to this. First of all, is your home ready? Is it hardened? Is the space defended? Do you have an emergency plan? Is your family aware? Those are important steps before the fire. That's the whole idea of ready, right? Is your home ready? The next step is your family set? Do you have a go kit? Is your vehicle ready to go? Do you know what to do with your pets? Do you know what to do with your grandparents or your little kids or anybody who's staying with you that might have mobility challenges? That is hugely important too. And then finally, do you know how to go and when to go? So that's the process, but here's the practice. Take a watch or a clock and set it to 15 minutes, a 15-minute timed session. Boop, start the clock. Gather all the items that you would need to take. Imagine that you've just been given the order to evacuate. Medications, credit cards, some cash, pets, kids, whatever it might be. Position your vehicle so it's facing the street. Turn on all the lights in your house, unlock the doors, and then go around the exterior and make sure that toys, firewood, nothing is touching the perimeter of your house, and that all the curtains and shutters and things inside the house are closed. We want the lights on if the fire is at night. We want the doors unlocked so firefighters can gain access. And then get everyone into the vehicle, stop the clock. Were you able to do it in 15 minutes? If you were, that's a successful execution of a wildfire evacuation plan. If it took you 18 or 20 minutes, do it again. Maybe not the same day, but if you do this every couple of months, then you're going to be able to take care to do different kinds of things to protect yourself. One of the things that's really important is if you want to have fire suppression stuff around your house, if you want to have barrels of water, if you want to have fire extinguishers and stuff, that's okay. But it's a distraction for the most part, unless you're sheltering in place. So your job is not to put out fire. Your job is to get out safely. So keep that in mind as well as you're going to work through this. So that covers that. We'll have a moment or two here where we could take some questions. I see that Chief Alvarado is still here, which I'm grateful for. Thank you, sir. Our next virtual town hall is going to be May 16th. We're going to be talking about my report from Sacramento, the live wildfire drill, which will be 2 days after the next town hall. We're going to be talking about technology. There's a lot of new software tools that are helping to prevent and notify and make things work like that. And we're also going to have a guest presentation. So if you have questions, please raise your hand. We'll get to you, and we'll be able to talk to you about that. And by the way, for questions that are in the chat, I'm going to address some of those in just a minute. Anyone have questions that they want? Okay. Ms. Schwartz, unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I wondered if you had an update on AT&T and landlines and about trying to preserve them in the hillside areas so that we have more choices as far as communication.
I do have a little update. So we've had several meetings with AT&T. We had one very productive meeting that included a number of city agencies, and it was at the Emergency Management Department. You can put your hand in now too, by the way, Ms. Schwartz. There is a lot of serious interest related to how we do it. The problem is how do we do it quickly and how do we do it efficiently? We've talked about a couple of ways to get portable cell towers and how to piggyback on other people's cell towers. So we're going to be meeting every 6 weeks or so. I would suspect that it will probably be fire season this year before we actually see some action taken. But I do expect that there are going to be some significant improvements both in the Hollywood Hills and in the West Side, which include Pacific Palisades, Mandeville Canyon, and Brentwood. Those are areas where we're very concerned about what's going on. As it relates to landlines, I know that Mandeville Canyon had a period with landlines out of service for even several months at a time. That's kind of out of our ability to make any real difference because the phone providers say that that was a fluke and a one-off, and they don't really have any way of politely telling us what they're going to do to make it more secure. But as it relates to mobile cellular technology, we're talking to each other, and that talking is going to lead to action. We're not going to let it be just a lot of talk.
But as far as maintaining landlines,
that's out of our purview, and it's not something that we're able to address right now.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So one of the questions that was raised is we cannot seem to get volunteers as street captains in an emergency, but we do have 5 neighbors who had CERT training in the absence of LAFD or LAPD. Will they be in charge? So we'll get to you in a minute, Glenn. So that's a really good question. Community emergency response teams, for those of you that don't know about CERT, there's 3 things that I'll tell you about. Number 1, to get CERT trained, the LA Fire Department provides that training for free. And there's 2 levels of training. There's the 18-hour course that you go through. It's not all at once, spread out over a 6-week period. But that teaches you how to take care of yourself and your neighbors. And then there is what's called a call-out team for people who are going to be more actively involved in an ongoing manner as volunteers for the fire department. Now, one of the really important factors here is who's in charge. And the idea that certain members are there is they're there to help you in the event the fire department is not. Their most likely situation to help you is either going to be an earthquake or a wildfire. And they are trained to give you supportive direction. But it can be superseded by police or by fire or other kinds of authorities. So it's kind of a ranging level there. So keep in mind, by the way, I'm noticing here that someone says one of the reasons to have a fire extinguisher is if you need one immediately. Everyone should have a fire extinguisher in their home. They should probably have 2, one in the garage and one in the house near the kitchen. What's really important about fire extinguishers is only people over the age of 16 should use them. Nobody who's a kid, nobody who's over 70 should be using a fire extinguisher. Your job is to get out. Your job is not to suppress fire. Glenn, we'd love to hear from you. Unmute yourself and ask your question.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on this issue of landlines. So for so many years since cell phones came into place and we're talking about emergency preparedness, it's always been recommended that we have the landline because even if the electricity goes out, it still works. So I'm not sure if you were speaking for a private entity, but it seems to me the city of Los Angeles, through its legislative program, and I realize that's a decision of the mayor and the city council, but certainly the fire department and the police department, anyone, and the emergency management department should be terribly concerned about this statewide proposal to eliminate landlines. And it seems to me that should be a priority within those departments that are working for emergency preparedness to lobby the Public Utilities Commission, the state legislature. I mean, the city has a lot of clout, and I'm certain, I know that nonprofits have certain restrictions about lobbying, but certainly getting the word out and, effective ways to communicate that. But to me, this is a recipe for disaster to, for the government to allow, the landlines to be discontinued at whether it's immediately or even down the road, especially in areas, not just wildfire, but, earthquake and just wherever else that we're probably not going to have cell phone. Thank you.
So Glenn, who's your council member? What council district do you live in?
4.
All right, so you should write a letter to Nitya Raman. And for everyone that lives anywhere in the city, if this is an issue that's important to you, absolutely writing letters to your city council people with your concerns is the most direct way to get some kind of clout going. You can also write to the mayor, and you can say to the mayor, hey, I'm concerned about this. The mayor has a public safety deputy mayor and has a government relations liaison deputy mayor. So there are multiple ways to let people know how you feel about it. One of the really important issues about this and other kinds of factors is if we don't communicate, it's very hard for people to know that we care or that we have a problem. I don't know if Chief Alvarado has anything he wants to add. Are you good, or do you want to add something, Chief?
No, I think you hit everything there, Dave. Nothing to add.
Right, and by the way, if you're an AT&T customer, one of the notes that's here is that regardless of what the state does in terms of providing permission to eliminate landlines, AT&T has no plans to cut them off. All right, then. So I think we're doing good. Thank you very much. It was really good to have everyone here tonight. And this is an important thing for us to do. I think our next meeting is going to be full of a lot of new information. And by that time, we should also have our YouTube channel up and running as it relates to the older meetings. And I think that'll be very important for people to be able to see. And let me just address one last question that came up. The question is, some in our homeowners association have been canceled by State Farm, others not. How can we get information about why? Is there anything we can do to avoid cancellation? So the answer overall is that no, there currently isn't anything that can be done immediately to avoid being canceled. However, we can complain, just as I was speaking about, complaining to your city council person, complaining to the Department of Insurance, complaining to the Fair Plan. The more noise that they hear, the more that the wheel grinds as it moves around making noise, the more likely people are to be able to pay attention. This, in many ways, is political. Insurance companies want more freedom to be able to charge what they feel they should be able to charge. The state wants to make sure that insurance is affordable and available. And those are kind of two elephants in the room butting heads with each other. So regardless of what has been said in a letter today, that doesn't necessarily mean that's how it's going to end. But if you have received a letter notifying you of cancellation, I would start, my suggestion would be, is to reach out to the California Fair Plan right now and get a quote. Get them to come out and evaluate your property and to give you a quote on insurance. And one thing that's very important about the Fair Plan or any other insurance related to wildfire, think about the deductible. If you raise the level of your deductible, then the total fee for your insurance will likely decline as well. So hardening your home leads to a discount. Raising your deductible leads to a discount. And there are, even if your deductible was $20,000, it's going to be a lot easier for you to find a method of financing $20,000 than it's going to be financing $1 million or $2 million because you're not insured. So it's very, very important to think about all the variables. We are working hard on this. I must note, we are not lobbyists. We cannot impact the governmental political process other than just telling people the history of what's going on. So we can't make deals. We don't do that sort of thing here, but we do talk to them. We do communicate with all of them. And I fully expect to spend at least an hour with the state insurance department week after next and to share all of the issues that everyone down here is raising. It'll be something that they've heard 1,000 times. I want to be the 1,001st and speak just as loud as anyone else. All right, everyone. Thank you very much for being here tonight. We're a little bit ahead of schedule, an hour and 15 minutes, which is great. We want to make sure these meetings don't take up your whole evening. And then I would remind you again, and the information will be posted on our website in a couple of days. May the 4th is the NFPA's National Wildfire Awareness Day. We're going to have a really good meeting from 9:30 in the morning until 11 with people talking about their own experiences during wildfires with some amazing photography and visuals. It's definitely a worthwhile thing. If you have kids or people who are interested in learning about this stuff, that's a perfect time to come around. And we're going to have some fun incentives for people who attend, some fire safety kits that we'll be mailing out to people and other things. So it'll be worthwhile to spend the time. All right, everybody, thank you very much for being here tonight. We really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing you next month. Good night.
Night, everyone.